Hey, babe. Don't forget we gotta get ready in 2 hours for that event, okay?
I got so much to do. How am I ever gonna get this done?
Jay, so do we need to cancel? What are you wearing? It's game night.
2006, right? When I won, and I never imagined it's the same road as you took, where I couldn't even visualize that as a teenager, right? We shoot for certain things, but you have so much energy towards, like, okay, I'm becoming the best, and it always makes me think, okay, what are you going to do when you do step away? Like, what's your legacy? Like, what do we want to leave? And it's a hard question for me, Flex, because, like, I'm still living it every day, and I've been retired 6 years, right? And people ask me, like, what do you want to be remembered as? Or, like, what I mean, and it seems like you're mentoring a lot of people around you. I know you have your gym in Florida, and we have a guy that we featured, Raphael, right? He's the next up and coming. We did DeLarosa's in there. You've been a huge inspiration for people. You seem to motivate people around you. So, like, how does that make you feel that you have that younger generation, besides making you feel like, damn, we're getting older, as because we're like the young guys, right? We're the young guys. I mean, we're phenoms at 20 years old. So I was in the same boat, and I had the heavy legs in the beginning. Like, I didn't train my legs for 3 years, believe it or not. But Brandao is just like, he's the next coming of, like, what the future is, right? He's a potential guy that may be competing up against you, coming up. I mean, I saw this with Phil Heath. I mean, he was like a young guy, and then all of a sudden he came up and beat me. So for you, I mean, how does it make you feel, like, mentoring these guys? And I mean, is this your vision of what, like, your legacy is?
Well, I can give him advices, and I can give him wrong advices. No, I'm joking. No, listen, that kid is something special. I shouldn't call him a kid, but he's
a kid. He's 26, right?
26, and he is a lot of him that I can see. I can see myself in him. From his determination and his relentlessness and everything. But he's a real student of the game. You tell him something, he'll do it. He doesn't question it. He loves the sport. He's everything that you would love to pass back to. He's not disrespectful. He's not going to take what you advised him on, or and then say, well, this guy's doing this. I don't want to do this, or whatever else. Now, and that's obviously, training sessions every single day. He comes in, I follow, I set the pace, it's fast paced, but again, it's blown my mind. Within 5 months, this kid has blown up. The Dragon's Lair for me, how I created the Dragon's Lair gym, was all about no distractions. Jay, I'm a massive MMA fan, and I paint the bigger picture, and I'll go back talking about the guys. But when I created the Dragon's Lair, I seen a lot of athletes, boxers, MMA guys have these type of gyms where they can just solely focus on their craft. So I decided to invest in myself and create the Dragon's Lair. Now, this was before Arsenal Strength had taken off. So I purchased every piece of equipment that I loved from around the world. I took 3 pieces here, 10 pieces from here, 1 piece from here, and I put it in this building, decided to call it the Dragon's Lair. And over the years now, it's evolved into where it is now. I've had athletes that have come in from all over the world, want to train. And we've had athletes that have moved to Florida across from the gym or in the area just to come and train at the gym. Dallas is one of them. And it's really become like a haven for athletes. And now we turn more bodybuilders away than I want to take in, because it's not open to the public gym. You know, we have athletes, we have fans that probably come at least on average once a week, that knock the door and ask if they can train or if they can come and meet the athletes there. And going back to Rafael, he has caused more problems than any athlete I've ever trained with, because he's a superstar in Brazil. So we have more people from Brazil knocking my door, can't speak a lick of English, and then asking for Rafael. I hide away. But this guy in particular, man, he is a student of the game. So what I've done and how we got in connection, I'll take more of a backstory. Him and I spoke briefly at a couple of shows, and I really clicked with him. He couldn't speak much English at the time. And I said to him, hey, listen, I know there's a lot of Brazilians in Florida. He showed interest of coming to Florida at one point in time. I said, why don't you come over to Florida on a week, 2 weeks, and train myself? So fast forward, I get a message and say, hey, bro, I'm in Florida. I say, great. How long are you here for? I've moved here for 6 months. I was like, holy shit. Now, I missed out a big part, but in him coming over, I thought to myself, you know, this could be a really good addition to my training. You know, when I trained, and I've trained with a lot of young blood, maybe you'll attest to this, Jay. Young blood brings the best out of me. When I train with young athletes who have never tasted gold, they are striving for victory. They want that blood. They'll do anything. They'll bend over backwards to come on any time of the day, changing of training, whatever it is. He was that guy. When he came in, I knew that we were on to a winner here. And obviously with John DeLarosa being the old school guy as well, we have a great stability. And going about John, you know, John moved down to the gym about 1.5 years ago. Prior to that, it was Frank McGrath.
Yeah.
Him and I trained for the Olympia. And talking about Frank before I talk about John, Frank and me trained for that show. I think we were together maybe 4 or 5 months before he was going to go back to Canada. And Frank had enough of me after the Olympia prep. He was like, fuck this guy. I killed him every day in the gym. And I love Frank, but my gosh, Frank lives on Frank's time. And I don't know if you know him, guys, but
of course, yeah.
Frank turns up when he wants to. And I'm so military-esque with my training for the Olympia. It's like I arrive, I'm ready, let's go. Frank moved from Miami to be across the street and live in a condo across the street, literally walking distance. I would text him from my house when I'm leaving, 30 minutes away. Frank, I'm leaving. Okay, bro, see you in 30 minutes. I get to the gym, Frank's still not there. I text him. Oh, hey, bro, I fell asleep. Went back to sleep. I was like, oh my God, bro. Still ass to the gym. And 6 weeks out, my patience is getting very small. But we went through prep. We had crazy workouts. But for him, he then obviously decided to go back to Canada. And there was a small little void where I trained on my own. And I heard that John was looking at coming down to Florida. So I reached out to John. I said, John, why don't you come to Dragon's Lair and train? You know, obviously I didn't think about us training together, but is a place for you to train. And I've known John for years. John is an amazing human being, one of the greatest guys you can meet.
Right.
And he said, yeah, I would love to come. So he trained there. We met up a couple of times, had some really good sessions, and I ended up connecting John with Neil because John wasn't working with anybody at the time. He was John won't mind me saying this, but he was a little bit lost. He just had his divorce. He needed structure. He needed a commitment to a show. And John had his best year last year. He won the Toronto Pro. He won the Puerto Rico Pro. The Olympia was a little bit of a sketchy one, but him and Neil worked out what the issue was. And anyway, looking forward to hopefully seeing John back on stage. And going back to what you were saying, Jay, sorry to keep on prolonging this, but
let me ask you a question though, Flex, before you start. John drives a ways to come to your gym on a daily basis, correct? How far?
He's about 1 hour away. I'm 45 minutes.
Wow, that's full time right there.
Yeah,
Well,
full-time.
Flex, you heard what he said, Dave. Flex is 40. You're 45 minutes from your
30.
I'm 45. Now I moved to a new house, so I'm 45. I live literally, I back on to the Everglades. So
Yeah.
it's like the Everglades to the sea, and my gym is closer to the sea. So it's about 45 minutes away from me, and it's a straight shot.
Wow.
So yeah, it's not, again, I'm touching on
That's why the time has to be really structured for you, especially to fit your meals and everything else.
Yes, exactly. And everything's military-esque for me. Everything is timed. As soon as I'm done, I get home. And even now with my daughter in school, it works out perfect because the time that I finish training at 2 p.m., I go to her school, I pick her up at 2:30, and then it's daddy-daughter time until my wife is finished in the office and she comes home too. So I'm touching on the subject, Jay, that you mentioned earlier about the boys and all of us competing together. This is why I set up the gym. I want to see the best out of everybody, regardless of who I'm stepping on stage against, you know, the potential of training with somebody to be beaten by that person. It doesn't come to my mind because I feel like what I'm doing is good karma, and it's passing back. You know, even with John was in a lost place. We got him on the straight and narrow, and it's not just me. It's a lot of people around, including my wife and Neil and all these other people, and Raphael the same. When Raphael came here, Raphael works with Chris, so I don't touch his diet. What I do is help him with his mindset, and the mindset is what a lot of bodybuilders lack. They can eat and they can do all the other things, but when it comes down to committing themselves to the show and committing themselves to the off season, their mindset is all over the place, even on the business side of things. You know, so what all I try to do, and I'm not trying to say that I'm the best at anything. All I'm doing is passing advice back that's something that I learned, and I'm still learning myself. You know, so you know, Raphael has got a great business mindset. He's already got a lot of things going on. He's already got his own show in Brazil as well. So he's very tapped in for a kid that's very young. So he's going to be doing some really big things in the future, and so is John. And what I do want is if we all have the ability to step on stage at the Olympia, have that picture of all three of us up on that stage.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. But Flex, what's up with the no shoe training?
Oh, I train with shoes. I just
every video I see, you're in your socks. So, you know, I wondered if that's like, and I see John training in no shoes sometimes, and I just wondered if there's certain days that you guys decide. And I also want to mention that you brought back the floor presses to professional bodybuilding and bodybuilding all over the world. Like you press off the floor for your bench presses.
I love floor presses. So the no shoe thing, well, it's my gym, right? So it's my second home. So what do you do when you come home? You kick off your shoes, right? And you walk into your house. So if my socks are dirty, then my cleaners are not doing a bloody good job. So that's one thing. No, but somebody told me a number of years ago that Arnold would train with no shoes, no socks. And I tried leg training with no shoes on a number of times, and I felt the benefit. But as soon as I started going a little bit heavier, I was having a lot of pain in my arches. And I think you and I spoke about this a number of months ago, Jay. But it's just a habit, and I don't. Yeah, a few people have called me and say, "Why you train with no shoes on?" And I realized it's like, holy shit! As soon as I get to the gym, I kick my shoes off. I don't even notice it. But recently, I've been wearing my shoes, so maybe I'll have to go back to it now since Jay has called me out and everything.
See, Dave Borley doesn't even know this, do you, Dave? You probably don't pay attention.
You must be following Flex a lot because you're telling all kinds of stuff I don't know.
Flex, and also, so why do you not let Raphael in the gym? He has to like follow certain tasks in order for you to open the door for him.
Oh, you seen that video?
You see what I'm saying?
So these guys don't have their own entry. You have to like make them do certain tasks in order to get you to open the door. What's up with that?
The gym is comedy. We have such a good time. Of course, when we train, it's all business. But when Raphael has got there a few times, he has to like the truffle shuffle from Goonies.
Yeah.
Fucking- I got so much stuff I could post, but no, we have a good time, we have a good laugh, and the guys.
You need a reality show down there, man. You
Oh
should
my
be
God.
pitching this thing.
Oh, but you know what? It's scary. I don't know if I should put it out there. Some of the stuff I might have people be like, Jesus, I used to like Flex, not anymore.
You can never lose by being yourself, buddy.
I don't
It's
know.
always a good
All
thing.
right, listen, Flex, I don't want to keep you. I know we kept you on here longer, but you trained at the same gym as Brandon Curry many years ago, correct?
Yeah,
In
man. Yeah.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
Man, like, he was under contract with a former company, you guys together, I believe, at certain times. But did you ever expect he would become Mr. Olympia? Tough one, right?
I would say, well, at that time, no. At that time, no.
Always had
Because,
the potential, right?
sorry, what'd you say, Jay? You broke up.
I mean, he had a lot of potential always. He was like the prodigy, they used to call him, right?
Yeah. So I remember Brandon getting signed with BSN after he won the USA, right? On the Nationals. What did he win? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember there was a lot of hype around Brandon. And there was a number of years where I don't know, he didn't really make the gains that he could have done, and I don't know what that was. But there was, if you've seen Brandon in the gym and you've seen him training even back then, you knew that this guy was destined to be great. He just didn't tap into the matrix code, whatever that was, whether it was food or whatever else. But also at that point in time, I don't even know if Brandon believed that he could be Mr. Olympia. So there's a lot of connecting things that have gone on during that time where he's grown. He's obviously moved to Kuwait. That was a good move for him because he could just solely focus on his given craft every single day. And he's seen himself moving into new realms. He started winning shows. He started standing against people that he might not have been able to stand against because he was in maybe second call-outs or whatever. And then he started feeling like, okay, I got a shot at doing this. So living in Tennessee, him and I used to be neighbors. Him and I used to live across the street from each other in an apartment complex. I've seen his whole family grow up. Brandy is an amazing asset to him. I would say this right now, and Brandon is a very good friend of mine, but Brandy has made Brandon Mr. Olympia because she is boss, and it's great to have that backbone. I got it myself here.
Listen, I had it Flex through my career. I mean, without Kerry, I always said I wouldn't have been as great as I was, right? And and she definitely, I mean, she's his biggest cheerleader, just like Allie is. She knows, she competed. I mean, she's a professional. She knew what it took. So, I mean, we all have our assets in our corner, but I never, it must be kind of ironic that you guys were right there in Tennessee, and then and he becomes Mr. Olympia, and here you are on top of the game.
It's very surreal. We trained in the same gym. We trained on a few occasions, and it wasn't one of them situations where, oh, I'm a pro and you're a pro, there's like a rivalry or anything like that, because we were in two different weight classes. Brandon already had his setup of training partners, and they had their own methodology, and me and my training partner had ours. And again, we had a lot of times where we trained together, but Brandon trained at that point in time, if I can remember correctly, a little bit later on in the day because he had to pick up the kids, and I trained more so in the morning. So there was a reason as to why we couldn't train, but we seen a lot of each other because we were neighbors. So instead of borrowing cups of sugar, I'd be knocking his door, and vice versa to borrow protein shakes. So it's been great to see Brandon's rise and his success. Such a phenomenal, humble athlete, very appreciative of everything that's come his way, and he's worked for it. This hasn't been given, he's worked for it, and that's one of the reasons why I'm more so proud of him than anything else. It's like he comes from blue collar, hard working mentality, and he's gone through a long road, I would say, to get to where he is now. There's been no straight shot, but that's one of the reasons why he appreciates his title more than anything else. So he's definitely earned it, and I'm very proud of him. And I'm excited to see what the future holds for Brandon too,
Well, you're considered one of those people that they're going to go up and challenge these top guys. I mean, I'm sure you're ready for the battle, but what a story that would be, right?
Yeah, what a story. I mean, it's great. There's a lot of stories that have been, I feel like there's been created, and I can tell right now, even, for example, and not to prolong anything else, but Kamal El Ghani winning the 212 last year was a very special moment for me, as well as obviously for him. But Kamal was the first guest poser at my very first show in the Mr. Wales. So when I competed at 19 years old, Kamal was the world champion, amateur champion. So he was invited to do a guest pose, and Kamal's physique was unbelievable back then, as well as it is right now. And his posing was
great. How old is Kamal right now?
47, 47, 48.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but right there. So I was 19, so he probably was in his late 20s, I'm guessing. I don't know, it's a rough guess, but he guest posed, and of course, full circle now, there he is this year now winning the title. And, that to me is one of them stories you were talking about, like Brandon. It's gone full circle years later, and I hope that I can tell many more stories like that, because there's a lot of athletes that are coming up right now. Maybe I'd be telling the same story about Brandao, maybe years later, but hopefully I come out victorious on that story.
Flex, tell me, after seeing the last Olympia last year and seeing Hadi for the very first time finishing top 3, how excited are you about going into the Open this year?
Well, I'm very excited. I mean, listen, not to knock off and jump over Hadi's story. What a story that guy's had, right? Mm-hmm. And I've obviously competed against Hadi in Korea 3 years ago. And that was a battle right there. It could have gone either way, people are saying. I decided to go to that story that was the year, obviously, Dallas had passed. And I decided to still go to Korea and compete. I shouldn't have gone. Neil wasn't there, and Neil comes everywhere with me. But I ended up going because I committed myself to the promoter, Alex, and I felt I was good enough to win, right? But I was there on autopilot, like I said, at the Olympia. And that Korea was 1 week after the Olympia. So I ended up going to Korea, meeting Hadi, very gracious athlete when I met him, first of all. And then obviously the rivalry was born when he lost. So obviously I had a lot of fan mail from Iran after I beat him. So the rivalry is going to be there for this year's Olympia. And at the end of the day, this is what's going to sell tickets, right? Hadi came to the Olympia last year and he looked absolutely phenomenal. It was obviously a wide open Olympia, and he managed to just get everybody talking about him and make more fans. And he also has this it factor, right? People were talking about the Camel crew and everything else a couple of years ago, what they doing. He has that because he don't speak English, and they're now asking, it's like, what is he doing? And this mystique around him, and it's good for the sport. Storylines are good for the sport, and if it's me versus Hadi that's going to be promoted this year, sign me up. So, I don't speak to Hadi. I don't speak to him other than when I see him. I don't have that relationship with him. But of course, I like his stuff and I comment on his stuff. But yeah, so it's going to be great. Phenomenal athlete. He's done the amateur route as well. He won, I think, a couple of world titles, Jay. I'm not too sure. But I know he had a very successful amateur career as well. And him and Kamal El Ghani faced each other as well, talking about that. So yeah, it's going to be exciting, So one of the
Flex, do you follow the 212 as close now that you've stepped away from it, or are you really just looking at the big leagues of the open class right now?
No, the 212 is always going to be my baby. Always. I 10 years, I put myself into that class, including the 202.
Mm-hmm.
So 202 days and then the 212 days. You know, all I ate, slept, and breathed was the 212. So I wouldn't walk away from the 212 without any thought. You know, it's always going to be a part of my legacy. And I want to see athletes not only look the part, but represent. It's all about growing the sport. Chris Aceto posted something the other day. I don't know if you've seen it. It was me, Eduardo Crea,
Jose, yeah,
all battling, and it just brought back a flood of memories. Man, Jose is a trip. I've had so much fun with him on the road, being a 212 competing, and as I've done with Guy Sistanino and David Henry. That was like the original OG 212.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, people are talking about different eras. That would be the golden era in my eyes of the 212. And I think that's something. There's something missing right now with the 212. There's not a. I don't know if you agree with me, but there's no it or a spark. You know, there needs to be a rivalry. There needs to be something that's created, because every single year when I was going into it, there was always somebody else who was going to beat me. Right? Every year there was. You know, whether it was Eduardo, Jose, Aaron Clark, where was it? I'm losing David Henry. So many.
Yeah.
And then 2 years ago, Derek Lunsford. So there's always somebody that's gunning for the title, and there's always. But in the last year, you know, obviously the coronavirus has taken a lot of the last couple of weeks of hype away from bodybuilding. But even prior to that, there's not been any hype or created hype. Athletes are just, you know, in that Dorian Yates cave, you know, doing their thing, grinding it out, you know. So there needs to be a rivalry. There was always a rivalry between me and Jose. And me and Jose would talk several times a week. But then when it came to it, what people see on the internet and what people, and our personal relationship, be like, hey, listen, I'm going to do a post about you today. Don't take it personal. But it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then everybody's talking shit on the boards and oh my gosh, Jose's overstepped the mark. And I was like, and I'd message Jose and I'd be like, you're a dick, bro. I love you. You know what I mean? So it sells tickets. Fans want to see something and they get attached to it. And then there's Team Jose and then there's Team Flex and whatever it is. I'm just making an example. But there's none of that this year. So I would love to see the athletes step up. That's the key thing here. Step up to the platform and start creating hype. You know, obviously the Olympia is surrounded with this whole mystique of, is it going to happen? Let's just say it is. And we shouldn't be putting it out there that it isn't, right? We all, as athletes, need to be getting into the gym every single day, training for your goals, for your dreams. My dream is to be on that Olympia stage in the best shape Flex has ever been in, right? I'm going to put everything out there and then let the judges judge. So every athlete needs to be doing that right now, right? And even people have asked me a few times, are you still training right now? Are you doing home workouts? I was like, no, I'm not doing home workouts. I'm not posting anything for a reason. I don't think it's, even though I have my gym and I'm still training at my gym, I don't think it's morally correct to be posting something right now. This is my personal preference, because it just, as a champion, it sends a bad message out to other athletes. And plus, you know, I've seen other athletes posting right now in groups of 8, and they're all training together in garages, and there's some IFBB pros that I would love to comment and say, bro, you're a dick, but I can't. But even more so, it's like I've got my private gym, and I'm still training, I'm still doing my thing, I'm not putting it out there. I think everybody knows who's training and who isn't. You don't need to prove it to people that you're doing your thing. And even if you are doing your thing and you're not in your gym and you're at your home and you're killing it, kudos to you. More respect than anything else. I'm very blessed to be in my situation, and I respect these athletes even more so that are still pursuing their goals and their dreams and their show aspirations. training at home with a couple of sets of dumbbells and ropes and whatever else. But what a time we're living in, huh? Never did I expect this.
Lex, you saw me training with my shirt off the other night in my garage.
The piss, man. Screenshot of it.
He hit me up because he's like, "Oh man, you still look pretty good, you know." So Lex, I have one more question for you, and then if Dave, we're gonna let you go. But if Dave has a question, so this is gonna be. I want to ask about Neil. Now you don't have to make a weight class this year.
Yeah.
So my question is, like, we've seen the pictures, right? We've seen the pictures, and this means nothing this year because we're talking even a year ago, 2 years ago when it was 2 years now by the time this Olympia rolls around. Like, we've seen the best pictures of you, like in that light in your dragon's lair, right? And that's not that's not like the magic mirror in Cool.
No magic mirrors.
Question is, Lex, is what, like, you know, is 225 like been a solid weight for you? Like, if you could really, like, I'm not going to ask you what you're going to compete at because it's irrelevant what you were 2 years ago. But like, when you saw yourself in the past and you got to that point where you kind of, I want to say, outgrew the 212s.
Yeah.
What was the body weight that you were like, okay, this is my great point, and unfortunately I have to come down from here. So what's that weight usually top out at?
Oh, well, the last year's Olympia, everything was like clicking around about 223, 226. And Neil was looking at me, it's like, fuck, we got to pull 10 pounds off this, you know? And it sucks, but we're going to do it. And you just see my physique starting to lose that pop. And, you know, it's all based around the scale then. It's not based about your physical best look. So I would say that last year's prep, anywhere between, I would say probably about time I dried out, about 222. Which, again, I've got all the pictures in my phone, you know, and I got iPhone pictures, and I've even got Ryan Loco pictures. So you can choose whatever ones you want to see, but there's no magic to me. I'll send them to you.
So, Lex, is Neil excited about this as much or more than you are for this opportunity?
Oh shit, Neil's the biggest fan I think I ever met in my life of bodybuilding. He loves the sport more than anybody. He's so passionate about everything he does for his athletes. You know, me and him have been working together for 17 years. It's nuts. 17 years. So he believed in me from my very first show. And that's when I met Neil, was my very first show. He was the head judge. So fast forward now, 17 years later, and you know, he's on it. I mean, he's very excited. He's nervous too, you know, like everybody, but it's pressure, like everything else, you know. Diamonds get formed under pressure, so there's always that element of making sure every single day counts, every meal counts, and that's my biggest issue, is not the training, not the mentality, not the drive. It's the food. The food has been my biggest Achilles heels. Crossing over from a 212 to an open class was incredibly hard for me. Starving myself for all these years and then having to force feed myself. That's the biggest thing. And Neil preaches over and over about consistency. If your day is consistent, you know, you are going to have a good day. If you're inconsistent with waking up, going to bed late, or missing a meal, or replacing that meal with something else, you know, you're not going to have that look. So every day must count. And I know it sounds cliche, it's such a cliche bodybuilding thing, but it really is true. It's Groundhog Day. You know, just look at what you've done, Jay. Right? It's every day counts. And again, I feel like I'm a fan of knowing what you've done. But I remember you telling me many years ago, you get up in the middle of the night to eat. Whether you wanted to do that or not, that was conducive to your growth. And when I was moving up from a 202 to a 212, and I just started dating Ali, you know, there I was getting up in the middle of the night and having to take a fucking picture to send to my coach because he had to get proof that I was getting up in the middle of the night to eat.
Yeah.
So that's Neil is crazy to say, you know, you know, I wouldn't be where I am without this guy. Would be an understatement, you know. So he's definitely alongside many other people around me, including Ali. You know, Ali and myself now have been together for coming up to 8 years, and I've not lost since I've been with Ali. You know, we got together just before my first 212 when I was a 202, moving on to 212, and I've been undefeated. So she's my lucky charm. Neil's there. I've got the same training partners. I've got the same massage therapist. I've got a team that's been built around me, and I say the same. The grass is not greener, right? A lot of people look over the fence to see if a greener grass is, but I believed in my team because they believed in me, you know. So if I feed, they feed. And there was a point in time that a lot of the people around me were donating their time, giving me their time free, whatever it was. But now I'm in a position where I can give back, and that goes to say, you know, with athletes too. So there's a lot of other cool things that I'm working on right now that I can give back to the sport. You know, the sport is at best incredibly selfish because we're all caught up in the same monotonous daily grind. But the free time I have, I spend with my family and find ways to try to promote the next champion coming through. So with that being said, mate, you know, I'm very excited for the next couple of weeks, couple of months, hopefully with this coronavirus.
Flex, I'm going to let you go because we have so many more questions we want to ask you, but it's already been over an hour, so we don't want to keep you too long because you have to eat. But if you had to tell one thing that you have on your bucket list, give me one of those, and if of course is winning the Open Mr. Olympia one of them?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I think the Open class. Even when I speak about it, it's a little surreal, right? Because it's not. There's no momentum. There's a commitment from my end right now to training, but because of everything that's going on right now, we're all clouded as to whether this is going to go on or not. But I'm still focused forward as to say this is going on. So yes, that would be most definitely a bucket list for me. When we start turning on the prep, that's my whole day gets consumed by that. This is one of the reasons why I've been able to be, in my eyes, very successful in certain things, is being and having balance in my life. I think balance is key. Before I was all bodybuilding, off-season, pre-contest, obsessed with what people were saying and on the boards. Again, social media was new. As the years have gone on, I've really distanced myself away from consuming so much. So when I turn it on, it becomes obsessive, but then I can turn it off. So the obsession will start around about June. So then I'll be off. If we had another Skype call in June, I'd be telling you that there's nothing I want more than the Olympia title right now. Right now I'm training to win that Olympia title, but that hunger, that incredible thirst, that hunger will start kicking in June. Right now I'm training my ass off to be the best version of me. I would say bucket list. I think it's just to have the bank account that Jay Cutler has. That's what I want.
Good one.
Oh man.
Jay, did you have any more questions or?
If we've held them long, I could ask him all day long, but I know he's got shows to win still. I was going to ask him, okay, what about? I'm not asking about retirement or anything else because you're doing a tremendous job. I know what you're going to do. You have a whole thing in place over there. I mean, you brought the Mecca to Florida, man.
Well, we just got to get Dave Bulley, full-time bodybuilder, and Mr. Jay Cutler.
I would love to. I would love to take one opportunity to come down and be a fly on the wall inside the Dragon's Lair at some point.
Oh my God, I would love to go. That'd be awesome. If you invite me, I will go.
Well, I don't know about flying the wall. If you're coming, we're training. We'll have somebody else film. How about that? Maybe.
As long as it's not legs, bro.
Oh man. Dave, I've been trying to get a J to my gym for 4.5 years. And every time he's in Florida, he's like, I'm in your dump, bro. I say, oh, come over to the Dragons Lair. No reply back.
Flex, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. I know you very rarely do interviews. I don't think I've ever seen you on any podcast at all. And God knows there's a lot of podcasts out there. We truly appreciate you taking the time coming on JTV. Champ, you want to say thanks to this guy?
Yes, man. Yeah, we're rooting for you. You have us in your corner, and I think you're the headliner for this year's Olympia. I mean, this is going to be the talk of the whole contest. But there's way more to Flex Lewis than what the Olympia is, the Olympia at the end of the year. That's why we wanted to kind of talk about the background and a lot of history that people may have not known, which I think is really cool. Because I always say, you mentioned a lot of things, consistency, the belief in yourself, the adversities you go through, the people you rely on. It's not just an individual thing, and expectations. I mean, you said it all. So for anyone that's out there reading, especially the younger generation, watching this thing, it's just, that's what a champion mind is. So congratulations. We're excited to watch you.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for inviting me again. And time is flown. I mean, I'm sure we could have talked for another hour with all the questions. And there were certain questions I'm sure that we're going to ask, and we never did ask them. So maybe we'll do a part 2 in the future of
I was going to ask.
Most definitely. So listen, it's we all have history here. With myself and you, Dave, and myself and Jay. Again, without jumping off the call, I've obviously spoken about myself and you, Dave, but I remember the first time you invited me to your house, Jay, and that to me was a massive, massive pinnacle in my life. Whether you knew this or not, inviting me over and showing me around all your trophies and the lifestyle that you live.
I didn't have much then, I don't think.
That was the first house, Jay, remember? It was in Summerlin.
Well, put it like this. You had a lot. So it was, even if it was the first house, I remember you taking the Arnold Classic trophy, the most muscular, out of the case, giving it to me. I don't know where that picture is. Maybe Chris Gethin has it. But, that to me was a massive thing, and that's why you're the fucking king, mate, because you passed back to me whether you knew it or not. I mean, listen, I could have maybe gone on to pastures new over there. I could have gone back to playing rugby. I was incredibly young, maybe 21, 22 back then. But you gave me so much time, and we spoke about training, we spoke about the business of bodybuilding, which I love talking about. And I wasn't even a weed athlete back then. In fact, I remember that weekend, I slept on the floor in Chris Gethin's hotel with him and Gary Phillips, the photographer. Wow. And ended up then coming to your house, which was a whole crazy weekend. You won the Olympia. I think it was that the year you won the Olympia, or was it second?
It was the year, and we had the party, Flex. I think my Kerry had thrown the surprise party, and I remember Chris reached out and said, hey, Flex Lewis is with me. Is it okay? I said, yeah, have him come. And I don't know if you remember who else. I think Gustavo Bedell showed up at that event. There were a few people I was kind of close to at the time. Dave was, I think, Dave was there. So it was pretty much a lot of the close people to me. And I remember he brought you out, and you were just a young kid. But, I had been reading about you for years. So listen, man, much respect. I mean, I'm watching from the sidelines. I'm cheering you on. And, I don't put myself, I was saying the other day, I'm visually looking at you guys up on almost that pedestal now, because you're doing what I was doing. And, now I'm a fan of it, right? Whereas when I was winning, I was I was in it. It's different. But now I can cheer on who I want to cheer on. And I'm a fan of everyone to a certain extent. But you have that special place for me because I've known you since you were a kid, and I saw the potential early on. And I'm just so glad that you didn't retire, because we talked about you retiring, if you remember. For the 212, you were trying to make that decision if you were going to go to open. So I'm really, really excited to watch this next chapter of what you're doing.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. And it's it's been a great conversation. I hope some of the viewers have learned a little bit more about me, and then we'll do a part 2 in the future maybe. But thank you so much for your time. And this is motivation for me now, going back, having this conversation with you guys. So thank you so much, and until the next time, right?
Yes, Jay, thank you so much for taking your time. Flex, thank you so much. Go eat, man.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Dave my Max 6 for
Bye, guys.
and we're out. Thank you.
We're here at Pumping Iron Gym with 7-time Mr. Olympia,
Oh shit.
Flex Lewis. So, Flex, what can you say to our friend all the way in Vegas?
Mr. King Huge himself. Listen, I'm actually looking for a space where I can get a picture on the wall. Like, Jay, would you allow me to have like a photo on the wall? Like, I think we got every era, even when he was a teen. Yeah.
Plus on the outside of the building
That's
as
true.
well.
That's true. That's true. Hey, listen, mate. What you've done for the sport, as you know, is phenomenal. Just try to follow in this guy's footsteps, right? And
You're doing a good job, bro.
thank you, man. Well, again, he leads the way to this every single day, and again, it's great to emulate a little bit of what he's done.
And what are we doing today?
Trying to get fucking huge, mate. Just like the king himself.
Yeah.
This gym is awesome, guys. So if you haven't been here, you got to check it out. So it's first time for me, and it will certainly not be my last. It's been a long time coming, right?
We always talked about this, man.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
glad
yeah.
it happened today.
Absolutely, man.
Thank you, bro. Respect always.
this.
Thank you.